All right, we are well into June. We are 6 months from probably the most frustrating event of many FSU fans' lives. And I honestly just didn't think that in June of 2024, I would talk about the snub anymore. I thought we had moved past that. I thought we were done with that. Maybe you guys will turn this video off right now and not even listen to the rest of it. But for the first time since the snub happened, I got a chance to look Mike Norvell in the face and ask him about it. And I know he's been asked about it in other situations. I know he's been asked about it at other times, but I'd never heard anybody ask this. And as a fan, as somebody who gives to the Battle's End and gives to Seminole boosters, which you should absolutely be doing. In fact, I'd love if you paused my video right now and signed up to support both of those organizations. Talk about that a little bit later in the video. But as a fan, I wanted to know his thoughts on a very specific angle of it. I understand, and I've heard that he was frustrated. I understand, and I saw the emotion when it happened. I understand all of those things. But what I'd never heard was what I asked him. But as a fan, I wanted to hear his answer for something really, really specific. And I think it's something that'll mean a lot to you guys too. I don't think it's just me that wanted to know this, but we had heard that this snub would be something that changed Florida State. And what I wanted to know from Mike Norvell is how he was using the snub. Was he using it to motivate? Does it act like a bit of a chip on guys' shoulders that obviously returned? There's a lot of guys in the NFL and that have graduated. But is there anything internal that we can look forward to because the snub happened? And I didn't know what he was going to say. I didn't know what kind of response we would get. I know he's tired of talking about it, but I needed to know. And here's what he had to say.
I mean, I think our guys, they got an edge. They got an edge about, all things that we do. But I mean, it's not about, what happened. It's about what we're doing moving forward. And it's just about us going to get better. And, it's not something that I use because, control what you can control. And, last year for 13 games, we controlled what we could control. This year, obviously there's new dynamics that are in place that you go and you take care of business and do, control all things that are in front of you. You're not going to have that issue or situation, present itself again. So, just go get better.
So probably my favorite thing of that was that he did call it an issue there at the end. And I know he corrected and said that situation, but it was an issue. And, Florida State fans, we've stopped talking about it on the channel. Here I am doing it today. We've stopped, for the most part, complaining about it. There are still jokes that get made, here and there on social media. But for the most part, we've moved on. But it still was a massive issue. And Florida State fans truly will never let it go. Maybe after Florida State fans berate ESPN employees in Dublin, maybe then they'll start to let it go. But it'll always be an issue. But what did he say there? He said that it's not something that he can use. He controls what he can control. New dynamics in place that should keep that from happening again. But he does say that the players have an edge. And that's the way he started it. There is an edge. There is a chip on the shoulder. He didn't use that word specifically, but if he's saying they have an edge after me asking that question, I'm pretty certain there'd only be one reason why you'd have an edge. You don't think it motivates Pat Payton. You don't think it motivates some of those guys that played in those 13 games. I guess that's up for you to decide. But last year, almost a year ago to the day, it was 364 days difference. I asked him about expectations. That was going into the 2023 season, right, where everybody was picking us to be a playoff contender, to have a really good season. I asked, do you use those expectations? Do you use the outward expectations that people have of you to tell your team, like, see, guys, look, we did the things that I told you to do, and now we're at the place that I told you we would get? And he said no. He talked about focusing on their internal expectations. He said, I don't want to tell my team to be worried about what other people think. He said, because if you do, your message is going to be inconsistent. He said, look, they're saying really nice things about us this year, but they weren't saying such nice things about us last year or the year before. And so what am I supposed to do? Tell my team to only listen to the outside noise when it's positive? And I think what this shows is a year later, under completely different circumstances. In 2022, I asked him, hey, are you excited about the outside expectations? And he said, no, I don't use that. I don't care about it. And then in 2020, after the 2022 season, after the 2023 season, going to 2024, it was, hey, are you using the snub? Are you trying to use that to motivate your guys? He said, no, I'm worried about what's on the inside. I'm worried about our expectations. I'm worried about our guys controlling what they can control. And what does that tell you? Mike Norvell is incredibly consistent. Mike Norvell, whether it's the highest of highs back in the spring and the summer of 2023, when everything was golden, everything was coming up roses, everybody was picking us to win the ACC, everybody was picking us to beat Clemson, everybody was picking us to go to the playoff. At that moment, what did he want his team to do? Focus on what you can focus on. Control what you can control. May of 2024, 6 months after the snub, everybody's in a bad mood. Everybody's still annoyed at ESPN. We're trying to sue the ACC to get out. There's questions around this position and that position, and did we do well enough in the portal? And all of those things, well, there's still a lot of excitement around the team. I'm not down on them at all. Just a lot more questions right now than we had last year. It's still control what you can control. We're not necessarily looking backwards at what happened in December. We're looking forward. Obviously, how does that impact the guys on the team if that's your message? If your message is, hey, guys, let's use what was behind us to motivate us. Obviously, you want to send a unified message. You don't necessarily want to say, hey, these guys are, we're going to talk about the snub and these other guys that are new here, hey, control what you can control. No, you just want to be unified. Now, as far as the players go, I want to talk about that in just a minute because I want to show you another video that we've played before, but it's the video that made me ask Mike Norvell this question. Before I do that, I want to give a little bit of love to our sponsor on today's video, Aura.
Important question for you. Have you ever Googled yourself? Have you ever Googled your name, your phone number, your email, your address? Well, I did that recently, and as you can see on the screen, what comes up is maybe not the most comforting thing. And in fact, when I Googled myself, I instantly felt vulnerable and was worried about my private info ending up in the wrong hands. Data brokers sell your personal information to scammers and spammers, and people may target you negatively. All of your info is out there. That's why I've been using Aura. Aura is sponsoring today's video, and they show me which data brokers are selling my info. They also automatically submit opt-out requests for me. They help me clean up my information and reduce the amount of spam that I get. I don't know if you guys saw this, but recently AT&T said that over 73 million customer records, that's both existing and former customers, were released on the dark web. Now, they recommended that those affected use strong passwords, monitor their account, and consider either credit freezes or fraud alerts from the credit bureau. Well, Aura does all of this for me. And best of all, I don't have to download several different apps just because a company like AT&T couldn't keep my data secure. Now, if my info was compromised in an AT&T data breach or any breach like that, I wouldn't worry. Aura is always on, and they're always doing the hard work of keeping me safe. I value my privacy, and I also value yours as a listener and follower of Double Fries No Slaw. You can go to aura.com/FSU and start a free 2-week trial right now. I've linked that in the description. With Aura, you not only get the credit monitoring, the data monitoring, they also give you access to antivirus, VPN, a password manager, and more. There's not a better deal out there. Go to aura.com/FSU and take advantage of our deal today.
Now, I told you, that's not the only video that I want to play for you today because, again, the only reason I asked Mike Norvell this question is because I saw this video. And I showed you this video back in December. I rewatched that YouTube video that I made today while I was working on making this video. And it was from Josh Pate, Late Kick Live, back the week that the snub happened. And I don't care what your thoughts are on Josh Pate at this point, but take a listen to it, and then we'll talk about it.
Florida State long term. It is not fun today, and I'm not trying to cheer you up or turn that frown upside down or anything like that, but you mark my words, it is going to be a good thing long-term for Florida State that they got left out of the playoff today. You're going to be able to package a ton of equity up from this. You're going to be able to convince your organization from now in the foreseeable future that the entire world is out to get you. It does wonders to bake in a bunker mentality into the culture of a program when you can sell kids on that, and you can sell staffers on that, and nutrition and strength and conditioning and recruiting and personnel. You sell all those folks on the idea that, hey, even our best one year wasn't good enough. So you know what in the future we're going to do? In the future, we're going to salt the earth entirely. We are going to lay waste to whoever lines up against us, and we're going to leave no doubt. Because if we leave it in the hands of a committee of people, you've seen what's going to happen.
Now, I still think Pate is right here. I don't think he's wrong at all. And you might ask, TJ, you just showed us or played us a clip where Norvell said he's not using it. Well, I think both are still right. I don't necessarily know that Norvell is out there on the practice field yelling at his guys saying, remember the snub? Remember December? You need to run a little harder. You need to lift a little heavier. You need to catch the ball a little bit better. You need to get after the quarterback a little bit quicker. You need to complete a little bit better spiral on that pass, DJ. I don't think he's using it in that way. I don't think he's using it in recruiting. I don't think he's using it to tell kids, hey, come here and we'll make sure that we never get put in that. So I don't think he's using it there. But I do think it's being used at Florida State and has been used at Florida State. We talked about the boosters. We talked about NIL. We have told you that before the snub happened, Battles End had about 1,500 members. They're up over 5,500 now. The boosters have seen an increase and another increase because of what's going on with the ACC. The fan base as a whole is certainly more galvanized. And whether they're using their wallets, whether they are spending more on FSU memorabilia, gear, whatever, whether they're just signing up to buy season tickets, whether they're upgrading their booster pledge, whether they're telling others about joining the Battles End or joining Seminole Boosters or encouraging them to go to games or spending their money to go across the pond to go see Florida State in Dublin. Whatever the situation is, the fan base is, and even if it's none of those things, even if it's just the support that they show on social media, sharing the Battles End's posts, sharing Seminole Boosters posts, liking tweets, engaging with our athletes, increasing their NIL. Even if it's just those things, it's still a galvanized fan base that, for the first time in a while, feels like it's very together. Now that uniting might be in hatred of a four-letter network, and that's fine. But the Florida State fan base hasn't been this galvanized, hasn't been this together since, I said in that December video, since this Jameis stuff was going on. Since like 10 years ago when all that crap was going on with Winston. And again, usually that's how it works. Usually when the bad things happen or the uncomfortable things happen, that's when families stick a little bit closer together. It's fight or flight. And that's what this fan base has done. And they've proved that through the boosters. They've proved that through NIL. And they've proved that through their actions. What about the players? Norvell talked about him not using it. But I'll tell you, nobody's told me this. I haven't asked anybody this. I'm not, Mike didn't comment on this specifically. I didn't ask the question about the players or how much they think about it. I didn't, I'd rather ask them specifically and not ask him to speculate on it. But you don't think Pat Payton has that in his mind? You don't think he's thinking about that? You don't think that Josh Farmer isn't thinking about that? Azariah Thomas isn't thinking about that? You don't think DJ Lundy remembers what that felt like? You don't think those offensive linemen, Darius Washington, whoever, you don't think they think about that? You don't think Lawrence Toafili, who busted his complete butt off in that ACC championship, banged up while he was doing it, you don't think he thinks about that? You don't think Ja'Kai Douglas thinks about it? You don't think Jalen Lucas, who had to watch his brother go through that, you don't think he thinks about that? I'm not saying it motivates the players in every single thing that they were doing, but man, have you ever had something bad happen to you and then had an opportunity to right that wrong? Maybe you got laid off from a job. Maybe you got demoted. Maybe you had something at work go wrong and you said, I'm going to be better because of that. Have you ever, they talk about all the time, oh, like a revenge bod. You ever gotten broken up with and then you go out and work out to prove that person wrong, what they're missing out on? It's the same thing. We do that so natural in human life. That's not like, oh man, I wonder if the players are thinking about the snub. Yeah, they are. They'd be robots if they weren't. Now, does it motivate them to drive every single decision that they've made over the last 6 months? No. I don't think so at all. But I can guarantee you that they think about it. I can guarantee you the players that had that gut, that pit of their stomach, gut-wrenching awfulness in the video that you saw when they announced that Alabama was in, I can guarantee you they're thinking about it. If not, then we have got a bunch of robots on the team that have no emotions. How about internally? Do you think Mike Norvell uses it? Now, I mean, he told me he doesn't. He told me he's not using it to motivate his players. He told me he's not using it to recruit or to do anything like that. But you don't think internally he might use it? You don't think internally, if we get later in the year and say they've got a 2-score lead at Notre Dame, you don't think he's going to pour a little bit of extra gas on that? Let's say Miami has the year that they're projected to have, an 8, 9, 10-win year. If they're up in South Florida, you think he's calling the dogs off ever in that game? Maybe that's a top 15 opponent. You think he's doing that? Or you think he is going to absolutely beat the tar out of them? How about Florida at the end of the year? You think he's going to call the dogs off if it's an interim coach because Napier's gotten fired 5 weeks earlier for being 3-6? I don't think so. I don't think the dogs are getting called off on anybody this year. I won't be surprised if there are games where Florida State puts up 60 and more points. And we'll see how good the offense truly is, but Norvell may not use it externally, but is it in his mind? Is it something he's thinking about? I don't know. I didn't ask that. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if they run some scores up. Georgia Tech, week 0, the entire nation watching, everyone wondering how Florida State's going to respond the first time their full team has taken the field since the snub. How will they respond? That spread might not be high enough at 12 points. If you're Norvell and you've got a chance with the entire country watching, you're not running that up in Dublin? Like, you're calling the dogs off if you're up 15 in the fourth? No, I think you're scoring until you are up by 30. And if you've got another drive in you, maybe you go for another one. Boston College, 9 days later, you don't think on that Monday night that Florida State will absolutely hammer the crap out of them? They're a 22-point favorite now. You don't think the Noles are going to run it up there? How about when Cal comes to town? How about when Memphis comes to town? How about when they go to SMU, the upstart, fun new group of 5 team that the ACC added? You don't think Florida State will run it up against those 5 schools? I don't think the average margin of victory in those 5 games isn't going to be around the 20 number. Just watch. Just wait for it. He may not use it to motivate. He may not use it externally, but I can guarantee you he will absolutely use it in decision-making this year. There will be no doubts. There will be no, oh man, they looked not so good with this player and looked not so good with that player. They won't give them a chance to say, well, Florida State only won by 2 scores with their backup quarterback. Well, Florida State only won by 3 scores with their third-string quarterback. Meanwhile, Jalen Milroe needs a miracle to beat Auburn with their, with their start, without them a starter. Norvell won't leave that up to a committee anymore. It will be, we will absolutely dominate. And if we get a chance to beat teams by 40, we'll just do it. We will do it every week. Hopefully, and we'll see how things turn out in August through November. Pretty good problem to have. Oh man, my coach goes for the throw every time and never lets up. Good. Screw everybody that's not wearing our colors. Let me know your thoughts on this. I'd love to talk about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you have any questions, any thoughts on Mike Norvell and the way that he answered this? Do you think the players, do you think it motivates them? Do you think I'm wrong on that? You think Norvell will run scores up this year? Do you think he won't? I am happy to hear all of it. Hey, YouTube thinks you should check out the video on the screen right now. If you haven't seen that one, go ahead and do me a favor and click it right now.